Picture this. You're flying over the misty emerald canopies of central Sri Lanka just as the sun is setting. It's golden hour, and slowly, rising right out of the jungle like literal man-made mountains, these colossal brick silhouettes come into view. It's absolutely breathtaking. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to put on our historical detective hats and explore one of the absolute most brilliant, complex, systemic marvels of the ancient world. We are unpacking the blueprint of a civilization that managed to completely master a punishing environment through, honestly, unparalleled engineering. A society that unified its people through a profound shared spirituality and ended up connecting the entire ancient globe through commerce. We're diving into the golden age of Anuradhapura.
So if we had to sum it up, Anuradhapura was an empire built on water, sustained by faith, and enriched by global commerce. Let's go ahead and break down the foundational pillars of this incredible island kingdom.
Pillar 1. The dawn of a Buddhist kingdom and its unifying ideology.
Okay, so the origins of Anuradhapura go way back to 437 BC, which is when King Pandakabhaya moved his throne right to the center of the island. But, the kingdom's true identity didn't really crystallize until a couple centuries later, in the 3rd century BC. That's when King Devalampiya Tissa met Mahinda, who was a Buddhist emissary sent by the great Indian Emperor Ashoka. This single encounter was a total game-changer. It forged this unbreakable political and spiritual alliance between the monarchy and the Buddha Sangha. Fast forward to 161 BC, and you have King Duttogjamunu unifying the entire island. And he did this, famously, by riding his massive elephant, Kundula, into combat to defeat the invading Chola king Elara. That victory officially transformed the realm into a deeply fortified spiritual center.
Following that unification, Anuradhapura didn't just grow, it blossomed into this unmatched sanctuary. They planted a sapling of the sacred Bodhi tree, literally the exact tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment. And get this, that tree is still alive today. It's 2,300 years old. It is arguably the oldest historically authenticated tree on the planet. They also constructed the Thupa Mayaya, which is the very earliest stupa designed to house sacred relics. Soon, the capital became this massive magnet, drawing well over 10,000 monks to its cloisters. And it was surprisingly inclusive for the ancient world, too. They established an order of bhikkhuni, or fully ordained nuns, creating a safe, highly respected stronghold where women could dedicate their lives to mindfulness.
Moving on to Pillar 2, Marvels of Monumental Faith, where we see architecture as devotion.
As the faith expanded, the sheer ambition of their architects went completely off the charts. Just look at this number, 100 million. That's the estimated number of bricks used to build just the Jetavanarama stupa. When you look at sites like this, or the Abhayagiri stupa, you realize these weren't just buildings. They were literal physical manifestations of devotion, engineered on a scale that honestly rivaled the Egyptian pyramids. Think about the logistics for a second. Firing, transporting, and perfectly laying 100 million bricks. That represents a civilization operating at the absolute peak of primordial geometry and logistical capability.
And this spectacular architecture sparked some mind-blowing cultural crossover. Check this out. On one side, you've got the Ruanwelisaya, or the Great Stupa, founded around 14 BC. It's this colossal monument coated in pure white plaster to symbolize absolute purity. But on the flip side, historical chronicles tell us that its founding ceremony was attended by 30,000 Greek Buddhist monks. They traveled all the way from Alexandria near Kabul. We usually just associate ancient Greeks with, Zeus and their own pantheon, but here they are acting as early adopters of Buddhism. It just goes to show you what an incredibly cosmopolitan hub Anuradhapura really was.
Now that intense devotion wasn't just reserved for giant monuments. It filtered right down to the crisp, macro details of their entryways. The Sandakata Pahana, or moonstone, is basically the jewel of Anuradhapura art. You'll find these semicircular stones at the thresholds of temples. They combine simple geometry with just exquisitely intricate carvings, like an outer ring of fire, alternating bands of animals, and this peaceful little lotus resting at the center. It's way more than a welcome mat. It's a profound architectural blueprint representing the entire karmic journey to spiritual perfection.
This brings us to Pillar 3, Titans of Hydraulic Engineering and how they conquered the dry zone.
Here's the thing about the central plains of northern Sri Lanka. They sit in a notoriously harsh dry zone. We're talking less than 70 inches of rain a year. So their very survival depended entirely on manipulating water. There was a famous ancient decree, let not even a drop of rain flow into the ocean without being used. Think about the ambition there. That wasn't just a poetic proverb, it was strict, foundational state policy.
They absolutely refused to be victims of their arid climate.
To pull this off, they literally re-engineered the landscape by building weas, these massive earthwork reservoirs to capture monsoon rain. But their true genius, the thing that leaves modern engineers speechless, was the Bisoko Tua. This was an incredibly advanced valve tower pit that regulated immense water pressure, which is what prevented these colossal dams from just bursting wide open. And then you have the Jayaganga Canal. They engineered this massive waterway with a gradient of just 6 inches per mile. That's a 1 in 10,000 slope. It allowed them to transport water across vast, flat distances using literally nothing but gravity.
And the scale of this infrastructure is almost impossible to wrap your head around. 30,000. They constructed a sprawling tank cascade system made up of roughly 30,000 interconnected reservoirs. The smaller tanks would strategically feed into the larger ones situated lower down in the topography. This brilliantly transformed a harsh arid zone into an agricultural powerhouse, easily feeding densely populated ancient cities.
Naturally, this total mastery over their environmental resources extended right into human health. They built what archaeologists widely consider to be some of the world's very earliest hospitals, heavily funded by the royals to care for the thousands of monks living in the capital. If you visit the ruins, you'll see these highly specialized rooms with perfectly carved stone baths. They were ergonomically designed to comfortably cradle a patient's body and head. They used the island's natural resources to create healing steam therapies, using local neem leaves for skin ailments and cinnamon leaf oil to treat things like high blood pressure. They engineered human wellness with the exact same precision they used to engineer water.
Next up is Pillar 4, Hub of Global Commerce. Welcome to the Maritime Silk Road.
Known to the ancient Greeks as Taprobane, the island's perfectly navigable rivers meant that all this incredible inland wealth could quickly make its way to the coast. This turned Anuradhapura into an absolute titan of international trade. They were exporting unique, high-grade steel that was literally forged in these ingenious monsoon wind-powered furnaces. Along with that, they shipped out fragrant cinnamon, pearls, ivory, and their legendary yellow and blue sapphires. In return, they imported massive hordes of Roman coins, elegant Persian pottery, and stunning Chinese silk. Geographically speaking, they were the ultimate primary nexus point, linking the great empires of the East and the West.
To move all this unbelievable wealth, they relied on these massive ocean-going outrigger vessels called yatras. These things were beasts. Built up to 30 meters in length, they could carry a whopping 50 tons of cargo. And amazingly, they were engineered securely enough that they could actually transport live elephants across churning oceans to foreign buyers. Can you even imagine? It was this highly lucrative trade that ultimately funded those massive stupas and reservoirs we were marveling at a minute ago.
But of course, history is complicated, which brings us to Pillar 5, the compounding collapse, war, water, and ruin.
Despite all its brilliance, Anuradhapura didn't last forever. And its decline wasn't just a single event. It was this really tragic, multi-generational cascade of systemic failures. It started in 993 CE, when the South Indian Chola Emperor Rajaraja I invaded and brutally sacked the capital. Now, this war completely disrupted their highly centralized bureaucracy. And without those administrators around to organize labor, the crucial day-to-day maintenance of that massive hydraulic system just halted. Dams weren't repaired, so it wasn't cleared. So those 30,000 reservoirs that once brought life to the region suddenly turned into pools of stagnant water, which triggered devastating, widespread malaria outbreaks. By the 11th century, the great capital was permanently abandoned, shifted further south where the remaining kings could better defend against invasions.
The golden age of Anuradhapura is just a breathtaking testament to human ingenuity. It was a state that successfully married highly advanced environmental engineering with a deeply unifying cultural ideology. But its tragic end serves as a pretty stark warning for all of us. When the vital infrastructure and the core systems that sustain us are neglected, or when they're fractured by conflict, how quickly does an empire fall? It's a pretty heavy question, and it's one that echoes right out of those mist-covered ancient ruins in Sri Lanka directly into our own rapidly changing modern world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you take this away with you, and that you keep questioning the systems that build and sustain our world today.